Brandon, hey, it's Adam. Finally found the time to make a video. Here are my answers for you. Question number 1. How long have you been practicing parkour? I started practicing parkour in March 2006, which means we just crossed about 7.5 years. But when you practice parkour, I mean, I guess some people take it up and then they never stop. But what happened with a lot of us in the beginning generation, for lots and lots of reasons, was we'd start and then you'd have a couple months off, or 6 months off, then 6 months on, or it was that type of thing. So it hasn't been 7.5 years straight. I think if you trained really hard for a year and a half, you'd be better than me. But 7.5 years is how long I've been involved with parkour and been really passionate about it and been doing it consistently, albeit there's some breaks in there for work or who knows, with travel or whatever else. What led me to discovering it? What led me to discovering it, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think was a Ripley's Believe It or Not feature, which was actually on the Yamakasi, of all things. And they were jumping over fences. I thought that was awesome. It must have been like 10, 11, or 12 or something when that came out. And then that led me to, when I was in college in 2006, remembering that and kind of it being sparked in me and asking people I was living with, hey, do you guys know, like, what's this jumping thing? You know, I'd always been fascinated by it and always wanted to know what it was. So someone said, oh yeah, look up Yamakasi. So I looked up Yamakasi and I came across David Bell's videos, and then it was off. It was set to go. So it was Ripley's Believe It or Not, actually. And then that spawned like me finding it 4 or 5 years or 6 or 7 years, who knows, later. What is Take Flight? What is Take Flight? Take Flight is the world's leading parkour apparel company. We create apparel for tracers, for tracers, by tracers. We started off just making t-shirts, graphic tees, moved into pants and hoodies. Now we have beanies, thermals, and we're also producing shoes, and also really, really brand new custom pants coming out of, we're making it in China actually, which is really cool. That should be done in about 2 months. But anyway, just we're a parkour-based apparel brand that makes clothing for tracers, for people that do parkour. How did I come up with the idea for Take Flight? Well, the idea was given to me because I ran a blog called MrParkour.com, and one day someone wrote me and said, hey, where can I buy a parkour t-shirt? And my response was, that's a good point. We'll make them. We'll have them in a month. And it took us like it took us like 6 months to get them, but it took us like 10 months to really, really launch it. But that's where the idea came from for Take Flight. Was realizing that, hey, we all do parkour and that you can't buy a t-shirt that says parkour on it. So that's where it started, and then of course it grew into what we see today, which is more apparel, quality apparel, things like that. The idea for the name or the logo, I don't remember where I thought of the name. I think I just sat down and was jotting down names like Black Knight, and I'm gonna have documents of like all the names I wrote down. I remember them, but I just came up with Take Flight, and it was like, yeah, like that's what we do. That's the right name. And the logo is a whole other story, which is for another time. What does parkour mean to me? Good question. Parkour for me is a very personal discipline. It's something I take very personally. It's a training method in which I can discover more about myself, more about who I am as a person spiritually, but also physically and mentally and emotionally, in all those ways. I find that when I push myself physically to those limits, I discover more about who I am. And so for me, it's something very personally that I do out of a passion I have to see what my limits are, what I'm capable of, to push that to another level, and also to see who I am as a person. Any words for the next generation of parkour practitioners? My words would be, the world for you is different than what it was for us who started 6, 7 years ago. And it was different for us than it was for the people that started, 15 or 20 years ago. It's kind of like, I kind of consider that like the third generation. Like the first generation was those original people, or maybe it's even the fourth generation. Anyway, I'm with the second or third generation, whichever way you count it. And it's a different world for you guys starting now. Because so much more about what is possible, let's just say the ceiling has kind of been blown off. When I started, things like double kongs were crazy. They were like insane. Like, you can't do a double kong. You definitely can't do it over rails or with a big gap, I mean, things like that. But not double kong. It's just like, well, everyone can do double kong. But to understand things like a calling to precision, how insane that movement was 7 years ago, and then to see now like the things like that are just like, well, you picked that up in like a week. It's just like such like a mind level. So I think the people that are the next generation is kind of dealing with kind of this whole nother culture of like maybe pressures to do things or ideas. I don't know what you guys feel, but I'm just saying it's different. And so my advice comes from a different world, if you will, but I'll give you my advice anyway. But take it with a grain of salt because it may not be applicable to you. My advice is that you have to look inside you and find out why you do what you do and why you do parkour and what you're trying to find in parkour. And the tendency, I think, is going to be because of new things like sponsors through Take Flight and other companies, through performances, events, because of the financial opportunity that's now there that wasn't there 7 years ago, and the financial opportunity that'll continue to grow as the industry and as the sport grows worldwide. Excuse me. As the sport grows worldwide, I think the tendency is going to be to do parkour for a reason outside of you, right? To be sponsored or to be an athlete or to make your living from it. And realize that none of us that started parkour 7 years ago had any intentions to make a living from it. In fact, it's not until about a year, 2 years ago even, that it's become accepted that you can make a living from parkour. I mean, back when I started, it was like David Bell can make a living, and maybe like if you're the best in the world, you can make a living, but no one else is allowed to. That was kind of the idea, which is why I got a bunch of hate when I started a gym, when I started a clothing company, because that was the sellout, right? Because no one can make a living from it. It's a pure discipline. It's not for money. But what all of a sudden the consciousness has been raised and people realize, wait a second, if we love parkour, why can't we live by it? Like, but this is a brand new idea. I realized this idea did not exist even 3 years ago. This idea was like still shunned. He's making money from it? What? That's not right. You know, so anyway, the point being is now there's more pressures, there's more ideas, but all that is outside of you. And what we had before, and what was even purer before me, but was pure when I started, was this idea of we do it for you. You do it because you're passionate about it, and there's nothing outside of you that's pushing you to do anything. It's only that pressure inside you that you want to become someone. You want to see what you're capable of. So my advice to others for the next generation is to try to really search inside yourself and find the reasons why you're doing parkour for you. Not being pressured by other people to go big or to be sponsored or to make money. And I don't even know if this is possible to do what I'm recommending, what I'm advising to do. But try to find your purpose and your reason and try to have that be a pure purpose. And if that purpose is, hey, I want to make my living from parkour, that's still a pure purpose. You understand? It's a different level than we thought about 7 years ago, but it's still a pure purpose. But what I mean about that purity is that it's for you and not for other people. And I think in that you'll find your way. And it's not going to require, you don't have to be able to do a double back or a double gain or things like that to be good, if you will. I think some of the tracers I admire the most in the world today, or the videos as well that I like the most, are the ones with no flips. It's just people literally tracing, like in the pure original way. So don't be pressured by the outside people to learn this or to do this or to go here or go there or make videos, or none of that is required. You don't have to make a video. You don't have to travel. You don't have to make money. You don't have to tell anyone you do parkour. You don't have to train during the day. You don't have to train at night. You don't have to train every day. You don't have to train 4 hours a day. You can do whatever you want. Like I believe that parkour is a discipline founded by David Bell, and the discipline itself is very strict. So not everything is parkour. Okay, you can't say, oh, well, I'm doing this and that's parkour because parkour is my way and that's what parkour is. No, it's not how that is. Parkour is this discipline, a very strict discipline. But I do believe that the philosophy of that discipline is to find your way. So in that way, that philosophy can carry you into what you do in your life. So again, my advice is to find that inside you, that purpose and that passion and that drive and that desire or those goals inside you, and to do it for you and to follow your path, whatever that may be, and try not to be moved from that path by others. You can be influenced by others. That's positive. Someone influences you, gives you ideas. That's what happened with me in my path, or with Take Flight or Revolution Parkour, where someone said, hey, will you teach me parkour? Hey, where can I get a parkour t-shirt? That steered my path. But I looked inside myself and realized that that was something I wanted. It was something that just kind of turned on the light and showed me what was in the room. That kind of ignited that. But that wasn't someone putting that pressure on me to, oh, you should start a clothing company. You should start a gym. You should teach. That was something I wanted. I just had to have someone that kind of helped me find it. So you can help those influences, but be very cognizant and careful of where those influences are making you be someone that you're not, or making you do something that you don't want to do. And if you look deep, I think you'll find it. But I think it's going to get harder and harder because of all the commercialization and because of the money and because of the videos. That stuff none of that existed. There was hardly any videos on YouTube when I started. None. And no tutorials, that's for sure. You had David Bell's videos and that was it. So I just watched David Bell's videos and studied him and moved like him. That's all I did to learn. That's all I could do. There was no gyms, no teachers, no tutorials, nothing. So I think with all the noise, if you will, it's going to get harder to do. But it can be done. You just have to be true to yourself. So find your path, stay true to you, discover what it is that you want to do with parkour and why you're doing it, and follow that, wherever it takes you. That's my advice. Hope that was good. I hope you're satisfied with those answers. Hope I help you out. Thanks, Brandon. Take care.